Durham College is a specialist college, and so we are more interested in actually looking at the learner experience. So my presentation is really looking from a bottom-up approach rather than the top-down approach. So as I say, it's a specialist college. We have about 260 learners, most of which have got severe learning difficulties. Before we can measure any impact, we really have to define where we are and what are we measuring against. And because we're a small college and we don't have the resources for data mining and the likes, we were just looking at our IoT strategy as our performance indicator and how are we actually progressing towards that. And the two key things that points that we bring out for the strategy is improving the quality of learning, and that's really through the learning experience, as well as allowing the students to take ownership of their own learning. Every little project was a trial, really, to see how we could use technology from the bottom up to, as I said, to improve their learning journey. But every project, we had to look at the impact of that project. For us, we had to do that more anecdotally, positively, and through learner voice. We're also looking at how technology is measured against the Common Inspection Framework, which is our driver in pretty much everything we do. And so we're looking at the outcomes for the learners. If it doesn't improve the outcomes for the learners, that's the number one for us, then we ditch it. Before the flips and the low-cost video equipment came along, it was just well too complex for any of the staff to use at all, let alone the students. So actually all that equipment just sat in the cupboard. So that wasn't worth the investment at all. As soon as we got things like the tough cam, looks like one of those little Gatso speed camera things. As soon as we got that, that removed the fear for the staff to use the technology and for them to get engaged. And that was one of our biggest things, was about how do we actually get staff on board on this journey. Talking about e-portfolios, when we got into the e-portfolio journey about 3 years ago, we were also having a look at the different systems that were out there. We wanted to use an e-portfolio system that would allow the students to take ownership of their own learning, really based on our IoT strategy that we looked at earlier. A lot of the e-portfolio systems that were out there were way, way too complex for our learners. But not just our learners, really, they were just way too complex for us as an organization. And so we had tracking systems. We've got numerous different systems that could allow us to track student achievement. But we didn't really have anything in place for the students to track their own journey. What was more important? Was it for us, for our own figures, or was it for the learners to take ownership, to figure out where they were at? So we just used good old PowerPoint, and we came up with a template for PowerPoint. That meant that the investment in time and effort from both the staff, or both of us that put it together, but also the staff and the students that were going to use it, was going to be minimal, but it was going to have a high impact.